Good morning, my lovely students. It was a very long weekend, huh? I hope that you guys enjoyed it with your family. In today's class, we are going to continue the last part of our grammar lesson regarding past voice, which is the impersonal and personal structures. The impersonal and personal structures, and it is stated in your student's book on page 171 at the bottom. 71. So just bear with me until I share with you the PowerPoint in order to start our lesson for today. All right, I believe that you guys have the screen now in front of you in order to start our lesson for today. I want you guys to pay extra attention. It's a very interesting lesson, and in order for you guys to understand it from the first time, so our lesson is, or the title of our lesson is Personal and Impersonal Passive. So let's start with it. When I say, look at the title in here, personal and impersonal passive. We know what's the meaning of passive, but now we are going to be introduced to the terms personal and impersonal. So before learning our structure and how to form our sentences, our active sentences, and change them into a personal and impersonal passive, we have to be introduced to the terms, the personal passive and the impersonal passive. So let us start. So here our first slide is talking about the definition of personal passive. So who would like to read the definition and then we will discuss it together. Who would like to read? Let me see hands in here. Let me see hands. Yalla ya Yusuf, start reading dear.
Okay, definition of personal passive. Personal passive simply means that the object of the active sentence becomes the subject of the passive sentence. So every verb that needs an object اللي هو transitive verb
Transitive verb, yes.
can form a personal passive. Example, they build houses, houses are built.
يعني like, thank you, ya Yusuf. Let's go back to our definition. But before that, we know and we learned that our English sentence consists of the subject, the verb, and the object. When I say here, let's all look at the transitive verb. So here we are going to deal with two types of verbs, which are transitive verbs and intransitive verb. The transitive verb, which is الفعل المتعدي. What do I mean by that? I mean by the transitive verb is the verb that needs an object. بيحتاج لمفعول به. الفعل المتعدي دائما بحاجة, it needs an object. And this is the form that we use for the personal passive. Okay, so we have to take into consideration, we have to put in our minds that we are using for the personal passive, we are using the transitive verb, the transitive form of the verb. Let's go back to the title, personal, from the word person, شخص, personal, شخصي. All right, so here, what is the definition of the personal passive? When I say personal passive, it simply means that the object of the active sentence becomes the subject of my passive sentence. So I will insert the object because I have here a transitive verb, a sentence, a full sentence with the subject, verb, object. I insert my object at the beginning in order to become my subject. So every verb that needs an object, which is a transitive verb, can form a personal passive, can form a personal passive. Let's clarify the definition in here with an example. When I say they build houses, okay, here our subject is they. This is an active sentence, and my subject here is they. My verb is build, and here it is a transitive verb because I cannot say they build and stop. They build what? They build houses, or they build schools, or they build apartments, they build a room. Okay, they build something. What is it? Here in our case, it's houses. So subject, verb, object. When I want to make it a personal passive, okay, or when I want to make it a passive sentence, I insert my object to become the subject. So I say houses, and I put the third form of the verb accompanied with be. And here I inserted are because my verb was in the simple present tense, so the verb to be will become or will be are, and then the third form of my main verb, which is build, built, built. So my new passive sentence will become houses are built. Houses are built, and if you guys want to add by them, that's okay. That's okay. Let's go now to the second definition in our lesson for today, which is the definition of impersonal passive. Who would like to read it, and then we'll explain it? Who would like to read it? Let me see here. يلا يا فرح.
Definition of impersonal passive. Verbs without an object, intransitive verb, normally cannot form a personal passive sentence, as there is no object that can become the subject of the passive sentence. If you want to use an intransitive verb in passive voice, you need an impersonal construction. Therefore, this passive is called impersonal passive. Example, he says, it is said.
Thank you, dear. So let's go back to our definition. Here you have to take into consideration that with the impersonal passive, we are having an intransitive verb, which is الفعل اللازم. What do I mean by that? I mean by it that verbs that do not need an object. Verbs without an object ما بتطلب لمفعول به. Okay, they are called intransitive verbs. They normally cannot form a personal passive sentence. Why? Because we do not have an object, so we cannot insert it to be our subject in our passive sentence. Okay, so what do I do with this case? As there is no object that can become the subject of my passive sentence, okay, what do I do? If you want to use an intransitive verb in the passive voice, you need an impersonal construction. I need to insert, okay, a subject, okay, which is called an impersonal construction in order to form my impersonal passive. Therefore, this passive sentence is called impersonal passive. And what do I mean by impersonal? We said that personal, it means شخصي. Impersonal, it's the opposite of it, which is المبني للمجهول بس ايش بيكون غير شخصي. And here we have an example. He says, okay, it means هو قال. Okay, what did he say? Here we do not have a transitive verb. We have an intransitive verb. So here it will become in the passive voice, it is said. It is said. So one more time, the impersonal, we do not have an object in order to place it in the passive voice to become our subject. So here we need it in order to put it at the beginning of our sentence to form our impersonal passive sentence, to form our impersonal passive sentence. Let's go and differentiate between the personal and impersonal passive. Let's all look at this slide. Verbs without an object, all right, which called intransitive verbs, normally cannot form a personal passive sentence, as there is no object that can become the subject, as we said before, of the passive sentence. If you want to use an intransitive verb, okay, إذا بدنا استخدام intransitive verb اللي هو في الفعل اللازم, the verb that doesn't have an object, in the passive voice, you need an impersonal construction. Therefore, this passive is called impersonal passive. And as an example, he says it will become it is said, and then we will continue our sentence in here, and then we will continue our sentence. Let's go to the most important slide in here, which is in your books, as I told you, on page 171. Let's discuss it together. But before that, I want to ask you a question. Why do we use the passive voice, the impersonal and personal structures? We use them in order to express our feelings, our beliefs, our thoughts, our opinions in a more formal way. بطريقة إيش بتكون بطريقة رسمية أكثر. Okay, especially when you are talking with people that you do not know or they are at a higher position. Okay, maybe. So we use it in order to express our thoughts, our beliefs, our opinions. Let's look here at the first note in our books, and I would like a student to read it in order to explain it together. Let's go to Zena. يلا يا Zena. We often
Pass.
yes.
Okay. We often use verbs like believe, consider, know, expect, say, suppose, and think in the passive voice. They can be used in an impersonal or a personal passive structure.
Thank you, dear. Okay, one more time. Let's go to it. We often use verbs like believe, consider, know, expect, say, suppose, and think in the passive voice. Why? To express our feelings, as I said, to express our thoughts, to express our opinions regarding something in a more formal way. In a more formal way. They can be used in the two types of the passive, which are the impersonal and personal, okay, passive. Now we come to the structure. How do I form my impersonal passive and my personal passive sentences? Let's have a student, Noor Elwer. Can you read, please, the first structure?
Yes, teacher.
Okay,
Before
higher your voice, dear.
personal passive structure with it plus passive verb plus that plus clause. Many people believe that working for a newspaper is fun. It is believed that working for a newspaper is fun.
Thank you, dear. Thank you. All right, let's go back to the first structure, which is forming the impersonal passive. How do I form my impersonal passive sentence? We form the impersonal passive structure with I insert it at the beginning. Why? Because I do not have an object, because I am using an intransitive verb, فعل لازم. And with the intransitive verb, we do not have an object. ما عندنا مفعول به. So, and I need, okay, an object in here in order to make my sentence or to change my sentence from the active voice into a passive voice sentence. So what do? I insert it at the beginning of my passive sentence, of my impersonal passive sentence, and then I add the passive verb, which is the verb to be regarding my tense, okay, regarding the tense of my verb, and then I add the third form of the verb. After that, I insert the word that, and then I continue my sentence, Let's have an example in order to clarify what I am saying. Here, I have an active sentence, which is many people believe that working for a newspaper is fun. Let us look at this sentence and analyze it. When I say many people, here it is the subject of my sentence. And here I have the verb, which is believe. Okay, what do these people believe? That working for a newspaper is fun. Let's, excuse me, let's have or change this active sentence into an impersonal passive sentence. Here, because I do not have an object, okay, I will put it as the impersonal structure or construction at the beginning, and then I will insert the passive verb, which is our verb to be, and the third form of the verb. And here I used is because my active verb, it was in the simple present tense. So it takes is. And the third form of my verb, which is believe, believed, believed. And then I insert that. And after that, I continue my sentence, which is working for a newspaper is fun. So my new impersonal passive sentence will become it is believed that working for a newspaper is fun. One more time. One more time. We form the impersonal passive structure. How do I form an impersonal passive structure? A sentence with no object. How do I, okay, change it from an active to a passive voice? My structure is I insert at the beginning it, and it is always it, nothing but it, okay? I will insert it at the beginning, and then I add the passive verb, which is the verb to be according to my verb tense, and then I add that, and I continue my sentence or my clause. So many people believe that working for a newspaper is fun will become in the impersonal passive voice sentence as it is believed that, and I continue my sentence, working for a newspaper is fun. This is this was about the impersonal passive structure. Let's go to the personal passive structure, and I would like, let me see here. Do we have, yes, yeah, Jessica? Can you read the structure in here?
Yes, you. Yes, teacher. You form the personal structure with okay. We form the personal structure with noun plus passive verb plus full infinitive. Many people say the
Soap operas
soap operas soap operas are said to be silly programs.
are silly programs. Okay, and here the passive soap operas are said to be silly programs. Thank you, yeah, Jessica. Let's go back to the note and clarify it in details. We form the personal structure. The personal, it means that here we have an object. We are using a transitive verb, فعل متعدي, and when we say a transitive verb, we mean that our sentence has an object with the noun, so we will insert our object in order to become the subject, plus the passive verb, which is verb to be according to my tense in the verb, and the third form of the verb, plus a full infinitive. What is the full infinitive? It is the phrase to plus the base form of the verb. My full infinitive is the phrase to plus the full or the infinitive form of the verb, the base form of the verb. Let's clarify it with an example. Here I have my active sentence, which is many people say that soap operas are silly programs. Soap operas are silly programs. Let us change it into a passive voice sentence, a personal passive voice sentence. I insert my object in here, which is soap operas, at the beginning in order to become our noun, our subject, because we know that in English, the English sentence is consist of subject, verb, and object. And here, our noun was soap operas. Let's go back to our structure, which is the passive verb, which is the verb to be according to my tense, verb tense. Say it's in the simple present. So with soap operas as plural, I put are. And then the third form of the verb, which is say, said, and then excuse me, the full infinitive, which is the verb to, and the base form of our verb in here, which is are. When we change it into the base form, it will become be. And then I continue my sentence in here, silly programs, silly programs. So my new personal passive sentence will become soap operas are said to be silly programs. Do you see the difference in here? With the impersonal, I have to start with it. With personal, I have to start with my object, which is soap opera in our case in here, in our sentence in here. These are the pieces of information that you guys have to take into consideration regarding the impersonal and personal structures. You guys have to understand that with the impersonal, okay, we are using intransitive verbs, أفعال لازمة, and with the personal, we use the transitive verbs. In the impersonal, passive, I have to start with it, and with the personal, I have to start with my object and have it as my subject. Here, in our case, was soap operas, and then I will continue the structure that I have. Let's have another example in order to clarify it more. I would like a student to read the example for me. I would like one student to explain for me the active voice with the impersonal, and another student to explain the active voice sentence with the personal. So who would like to read, yeah, Juan, and explain the first sentence?
Personal and impersonal passive. The active voice, they say women live longer than men. Impersonal passive, it is said that women live longer than men.
Thank you.
So,
Can you, yes, can you
uh,
please explain it?
sure, teacher. First, in the impersonal passive, we put it in the beginning.
Yes.
Plus
Okay.
the
Okay, can you wait just a minute? Let me minimize the,
yes, teacher.
yes, in order to help you with the, here, with the impersonal, okay? Here is the structure, so you can explain it. Yeah.
So we first begin with it
Mm-hmm.
uh, plus the passive verb, which is the verb to be. Here we put it plus
Why?
the
Because our verb
because
was
the
in
verb
what
is
tense?
in the present.
يعني عليكي. Yes, okay, continue.
Plus the verb 3, which is said.
Mm-hmm.
Plus that, and
Mm-hmm.
then we continue the sentence.
يعني
Women
عليك.
live
So
longer
our
than
new
men.
sentence will become, can you please read it?
Yes, it is said that women live longer than men.
يعني عليك. Thank you, يا Juan. Who would like to explain the second sentence, which is the personal passive? Let me see hands in here. Let me see hands, يا زينة.
The personal passive, it's a transitive verb, so we have an object. So
Mhm.
at first we should insert the object as the subject. Then we should put the passive verb, and we mean by passive verb the verb to be plus the third form of the verb. So
Mhm.
women, it's plural, and it's in the present tense. So I will insert or. Then the third form, say, it becomes said. Then women are said to live longer than the full infinitive to plus the base form of the verb to live longer than the men. Then we continue the sentence.
So our new sentence will be.
Women are said to live longer than men.
يعني عليك يا زينة. Thank you, dear. Yes. So with that, we will be done with explaining our last part of the grammar lesson regarding the active and passive voice. So in this unit, we learned about the passive regarding tenses, regarding gerunds, infinitives, modal verbs, and last but not least, regarding the impersonal and personal structures. So, what I need from you guys, I will put a homework as tonight's task, all right, which is your exercises from the student book and workbook regarding the impersonal and personal structures. So please, okay, do them in order to discuss them together in tomorrow's class to check your understanding regarding this section of your grammar lesson. And for now, we will start, okay, solving these exercises, and then you guys will continue it as a homework, okay? So now let's go to our books in here at the grammar section, and let's us start with the first exercise, ya Yusuf. Read the sentences and label them if they are active or passive.
Okay, many people believe that the news on TV is إيش هيكون؟
Accurate.
accurate. It's believed that the
No,
news
no,
on
no, no.
TV.
Okay, I want you to solve the first one. Many
Okay.
people believe that the
The
news on
active,
TV is accurate. Is it an active or a passive sentence?
active.
It's an active sentence. Thank you. Who would like to do the second one? Let me see hands in here. Yes, ya Farah.
It is believed that the news on TV is accurate. It's a passive sentence.
It's a passive sentence. And what do I mean by the word accurate in here? What does accurate mean?
زي
True.
دقيق.
دقيق, yes, precise, correct, صحيح. Okay, thank you guys. All right, we have a couple of minutes. We could go to the next exercise in here. Sentence 2 in A is an impersonal because it started with it. Okay. Impersonal passive structure. Read this sentence again and answer the questions below. Who can read it and answer the questions for me? Let me see hands in here. Let's go. يلا. Juan, go ahead, يا Juan. It
Um,
is.
it is believed that the news on TV is accurate.
The
Which
first
word is the
question, dear.
okay? Which word is the subject of the passive verb? It.
Okay, let's see. Is it?
No.
Okay. So, okay, look at it again. We want, okay, which word is the subject of the passive verb? Okay, what is the passive verb in here?
Believed.
Believed. Okay, and what is when I want to make it, okay, as a sentence? Okay, I have to have a subject. So, what is the subject in our case in here? Okay, okay.
Then use.
Juan, believed, okay, is my passive verb. Is my passive verb. Let's look at the first exercise in here, okay? Many people believe that the news, here in the active sentence, believe is my verb, right? And if I want to make it a personal, okay, passive voice, what will be my noun, my subject in here?
Then use.
The news. That's why we answered it as the news in the next question. What word follows the passive verb?
That.
That. Thank you. What word follows the passive verb? It was that. Unfortunately, your time is up, guys. I need to leave you now in order to prepare yourselves for your next class. But before that, please do your homework task. But before doing it, revise this lecture. Okay, watch the video again and follow up with the presentation that I will send you in order to check if you understand and then solve your exercises in order to be able to discuss them in tomorrow's class. You guys have a nice day. And if you have any question, please ask me. Now I will leave you.
يعطيك العافية.
Yeah.